the number one issue for economic developers right now is not necessarily day-to-day economic development. The number one issue they're facing is workforce. And I jokingly say that economic developers 8 years ago didn't know how to spell the word workforce, and now they're having to get involved with the workforce community, the community colleges, the workforce investment boards. They need to know about things like WIOA in ways that I think many of them are dumbfounded, because they're having to learn a bureaucracy, a set of programs in order to meet the needs of their employers. Existing businesses aren't able to expand. Some of them are having to think about other locations unless the economic developers and the workforce suppliers can figure out how to get them talent. And it is amazing how we've turned around, and that is the number one issue. So if we went back 15 years ago and we talked to site selectors and economic developers who were responding to companies or site selectors in terms of, hey, we may bring something to your community, they would send you a paper document, a paper RFP. And that paper RFP, you would fill out what's your unemployment rate, how far are you from an international airport, can you get a master's degree, do you have some type of machine or tool and die operation at the community college where they could train people. There would be just hundreds or dozens of questions that you would have to provide the site selector. Well, fast forward to today. Many communities are eliminated from the equation, and they never knew they were eliminated because they never got a survey. The site selectors all have technology. They have databases that they subscribe to or have built themselves, and that technology has kind of walked around economic developers. Kind of in response to that, economic developers have built pretty fancy websites to try to tell the story, hoping that site selector or company might stop by the website if they are really trying to research a company and figure out, is there anything else I need to know? And there is the place that economic developers and their community leaders can tell alternative stories. There was a guy here in Cleveland by the name of Charlie Webb. He worked at the Greater Cleveland Growth Association before they changed their name. And he said, we get one bad number and it might take us out of the running. But oftentimes there's a story behind that number, and that's the issue that many economic developers are trying to deal with. How do they, in a technologically way, tell the story about maybe graduation rates at the public high schools, or how do they tell the story about the price of clerical staff if it seems higher than the national average? The site selector isn't necessarily going to find that in their databases. So the economic developer needs to find a different way of articulating that. Part of that will be through a website. Some part of that will be electronic newsletters. Part of that will be getting in front of these site selectors in new and different ways. I think many people, when they start out in the profession, they don't even know that they need to understand all the data about their own community. What is the concentration of certain industries within their community? Where is the raw talent, and what skill level is that raw talent at? How many flights per day internationally going out of your regional or national airport? We were doing, Montgomery, Alabama has submitted a proposal to have an IEDC conference, and we were debating this the other day, and I just went online and I said, you realize there's a total of 7 flights a day out of Montgomery. Well, that took them out of the running very quickly. There are 7 flights a day out of Cleveland to Toronto, I think. So, and it's data like that you need to know and have at your availability if you're talking to a company executive and saying, here's how we can help you. Here is the data about our community. And it needs to be much deeper than that, but so I'm scratching the surface when I give some of these examples.